Well, it's time now to take a look at this Monday's French newspaper front pages with our press reviewer Florence Firmino, who joins me now. And the presidential election in Egypt is getting a lot of attention.
It sure is. It's on the front page of left-leaning Libération, Égypte, la révolution part en courant. So it's a play on words between partir en courant means to slip away, to run away. So the revolution is slipping away with the play on words with Quran there. In their editorial, Libération says that the election of the Muslim Brotherhood's candidate is very symbolic. It's definitely important for the Arab world as a whole. But the editorial points out that the army is still largely in charge, pulling the strings, and the army has made the role of president an empty shell, according to Libération, by removing a lot of the president's powers. Now, Libération also points out that unfortunately there was a high abstention rate, notably from young people who sparked the revolution in the very first place. And the election in Egypt is also in the editorial of Le Figaro, which also calls it a very symbolic election. It says that it crowns the rise in power of Islamists in the wake of the Arab Spring. It says that the Islamists definitely scored an important point with this election because it's the first time that an Islamist has been elected by the will of the people to lead a big Arab country. But just like Libération, Le Figaro points out that the army has taken plenty of precautions and that Morsi will have very little room to actually maneuver.
Okay, well, moving back to Europe, and the Euro crisis also making a lot of the newspapers today.
It sure is. This comes ahead of the big European summit that everyone's waiting for, scheduled for June 28th and 29th. But before that, Angela Merkel is going to meet French President François Hollande here in Paris on Wednesday, and they're going to attempt to get on the same page ahead of this summit. Now, Les Echos, the business daily here, says that Paris and Berlin are condemned to get along to save the euro because there's still serious divisions ahead of this summit. And sticking with the euro crisis, let's take a look at Le Figaro, the right-leaning newspaper here, that wonders whether Greece has been lying to Europeans. Now, this story was actually leaked in a Greek daily called Tu Vima, and just days after the new coalition government was sworn in, Greece is accused of hiring 70,000 civil servants in the last year and hiding it. Now, this violates the terms of the bailout accords of 2010 and 2011 between Greece and the Troika, so the EU, the ECB, and the IMF. And one of the conditions for this bailout was harsh austerity measures. And at the time, the socialist PASOK government had promised it would fire several thousand civil servants in exchange for this 110 billion euro bailout. So as you can imagine, the former Prime Minister, George Papandreou, has been drawing a lot of criticism for what people are calling double talk. Now, it's important to note, though, that the Greek government does deny these accusations, but it's likely to make future negotiations with the Troika very difficult.
Fascinating, particularly as they're pushing for an extension at the moment on those bailout negotiations. Very, very interesting. Watch this space. Meanwhile, here in France, the economy getting a lot of attention as well.
The economy's all over the press today. On the front page of Le Parisien, it's calling it the government's headache, les casse-têtes du gouvernement. The government needs to find 7.5 billion euros to make good on François Hollande's campaign promises. And Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault is gathering his ministers today to kind of make an attack plan. The government is facing several challenges. So this EU crisis, of course, unemployment, changing the tax system, and minimum wage. The government has promised to increase minimum wage by 2%, but according to the communist paper L'Humanité, that's not enough. They call it just a slight little finger flick nudge forward instead of the real helping hand that workers need. Because according to L'Humanité, an increase in 2% would translate into an increase of 6.6 euros a month for workers. And according to L'Humanité, that's not enough. And the paper is quite disappointed and critical of the government.
Okay, well, finally, football also making the papers after France had a pretty dismal performance against Spain on Saturday.
Absolutely. 20 Minutes is calling it pitiful elimination. And the paper wonders whether it's time for the French team to put itself into question. Now, there was already a lot of soul-searching within Les Bleus following their disastrous participation in the World Cup in 2010. And according to 20 Minutes, the construction site is open again. It's also on the cover of L'Équipe, the sports daily here. Le changement, c'est maintenant. So a little wink to François Hollande's campaign slogan. Change is now. What it just is going to happen, who knows? But L'Équipe is definitely questioning whether Laurent Blanc, for instance, the coach, will stick around. What changes will go through the Bleu to make sure that maybe next time they can win a little bit.
Okay, well, thanks very much indeed, Florence, for that look at today's French newspapers.